Hey guys, it's Upa here, and today we'll be talking about Mythic heroes, and specifically which Mythic heroes you should be getting. So let's start right off, and the first Mythic hero that you should always be getting is Nordak. So Nordak is a fantastic shooter, and does two main things which I think are very good. So first off, and most importantly, his Special Force skill grants all allies damage immunity and block debuff, and this is a buff which basically only Nordak has, and as you can already tell, giving damage immunity to your team for 2 turns is extremely strong. He also has a very strong shield on his special 2, which is 60% of his max health. His passive simply increases your team's survivability and increases his shielding capabilities. And his basic attack actually allows him to do very solid amounts of damage, especially after exclusive 1. And this will require you to build him with defense, crit rate and crit damage. But as a new player, you shouldn't really do this and just focus on building HP and support. So Nordak is a fantastic shooter, and at each of his exclusives, it will simply just increase his shooting capabilities for your team, and I recommend that after you get Nordak, you bring him to exclusive 3 before deciding on what you want to get next. So after your first option, you have some freedom to pick your second choice, and your second choice should either be Nita, Nereid, or Ben Austin. So let's talk about Nita first. And Nita does both a good amount of poison damage on her own and also supports a poison damage team. So the support she does is primarily through this deep poisoning debuff she puts on enemies, which increases the poison damage enemies take by 50%. So if you already have existing strong poison damage dealers like Giselle, this will increase your team's damage a lot. And even just by herself, Nita does a very solid amount of damage on her own. Nita is also good in PvP content, mainly because of this passive ability, as you can see where she is immune to all damage over time and converts all poison on her to heal. So in the early to mid stages of the game, many players don't have very strong direct damage teams and mostly rely on damage over time damage dealers. So in PvP, she can be very difficult to kill, and is a very solid option in the earlier stages of the game to put into your arena teams, and will be very annoying to deal with. However, one downside I have to mention is that Nita is quite exclusive 3 reliant, and before her exclusive 3 she isn't very strong, especially in terms of damage. So one strategy if you want to get Nita is to use your conversion stone. So after getting Nordak at exclusive 3, you want to save up an additional 100 Mythic crystals, and then instead of buying Nita using the 100 Mythic crystals, you use this conversion stone and convert your Nordak exclusive 3 immediately to Nita exclusive 3. Then you can use the 100 Mythic stones that you have to buy back Nordak at exclusive 0. So what this will do is allow you to have Nita at exclusive 3 where she becomes very useful. And there is a small downside where your Nordak will now be exclusive 0 instead of exclusive 3. However, Nordak is still very useful even at exclusive 0, and you can just build him back up to exclusive 3 once again after using your conversion stone. The next option is Nereid, and Nereid is a HP burn support, and she has 2 main benefits that I want to highlight. The first is this passive, where when Nereid is alive, increase enemies' direct damage and damage over time taken by 12%. And if the enemies have any debuff, this effect will be increased up to 45%. And in fact, this number is even higher when you level up her skills. So if you can't already tell, increasing the damage that your team does to enemies by over 45% is very strong. And in addition to that, she does put a lot of debuffs on enemies, mainly Attack Down 2, Wet 2, and Cold 2. So these 3 skills combined will reduce the damage that enemies do quite significantly, and will increase the survivability of your team. As for her exclusives, Nereid is very usable from exclusive 0, however, as with most characters, you do want to get her to exclusive 3 after getting her. And this should be a general rule of thumb that you can follow, that whether it's just for these mythic characters or in general, you want to exclusive 3 characters one at a time rather than spreading your resources across different characters. So next we have Ben Austin. And Ben Austin is very straightforward in terms of what he does, and his main use is his Special 4. So what it does is he chooses a target to attack, and that will allow all allies to pursue and attack the enemy chosen one time. And at exclusive 3, as long as the target doesn't die, this skill will not have a cooldown, so he can use it every turn. So when you're fighting a boss, you can use a special force skill every turn, and every turn your team will do an additional basic attack on the enemy, and this damage will really add up over time as the fight goes on. However, since this cooldown reduction only occurs at exclusive tree, he is not very useful until you do get him at exclusive tree. So Ben Austin is useful in almost any team if you can find a slot for him, but over time as you improve your roster, there will be much better options than Ben Austin. So what character do you pick? Well, it depends on the situation, and let me outline a few scenarios where you may want to pick one of these three characters. So for Nita, if you already have a strong poison damage dealing team and you want to make that team even stronger through this deep poisoning 2 buff, then you can pick Nita. Or if you do not have a poison damage dealer and want a decent poison damage dealer to add to your team, you can also pick Nita. And if you want a good PvP option, which will be very strong in the early to mid stages of the game, then once again, you will be picking Nita. The second choice, Narit, I will only really pick her if you have a strong HP burn team and want to increase their damage further. So if you have characters like Irato or Anhijin or Bobo N, and you want to increase their strength even more, you can get Narit as your second choice. And lastly, for Ben Austin is a jack of all trades but master of none, and as I mentioned earlier, you will slot him into a team if you do not have any other better options. So he's very versatile in terms of what teams you can put him inside. But because he's not a master of any of the traits, as I said, he will very quickly become less and less used as you get stronger characters. One main team I'll highlight that he is especially useful for is the Dienmu Indra team, because allowing Dienmu Indra to pursue an attack allows them to increase the lightning stacks they put on enemies, and that increases their damage by quite a significant amount. So he's especially good in that team. However, if none of these options apply to you, or if you're on the fence of what to pick, I recommend that you default by picking Nita. You can't really go wrong with her, and she is probably the best option you can pick amongst these three as a whole. So after getting your first 4 mythics, which should always be these 4 mythic heroes, your options for subsequent mythic heroes are very open because none of these characters stand out in particular. So you can pick based on your situation at the moment or what you feel you need the most. But I will highlight 3 characters. First would be Melchior, and Melchior will be a very solid PvP option in 3v3 or 5v5 teams for free-to-play players. He does perform decently well in PvP, so if you need a character to fill your 3v3 or 5v5 teams, you can choose him. The second option would be Lucia, and this is an extremely niche scenario, but she is used in the best or most accessible team for Ultimate Challenge 8. So if you are struggling to beat Ultimate Challenge 8, you can pick Lucia, and this, like I said, is an extremely niche case, and she only really is being used there. And the third option, and also once again extremely niche, would be Brynhild. So Brynhild is currently seeing some use in classic arena teams, even for late game players, but even though it does seem to be working, there are very few players who can make it work. Right now, I believe in Ultimate Division there are only about 2 or 3 players which are trying Brynhild and experimenting with her and finding some success. But for 99% of players, this isn't really a use case you should be concerned about, but just something I thought was worth mentioning. And even if you do not want to pick any of the 3 options I've mentioned and want to pick one of the remaining ones, by all means, because by the time you get your first 4 mythic heroes, you are probably at a stage where you don't really need any of these remaining characters. So you can just pick based on what you want or what you think looks nice and so on. And the last thing I want to mention is that we are expecting to get the latest mythic hero for the newest faction, and we expect it to come out in July. So one option you can also consider is that after getting Nordet and these 4 characters, you can start saving your mythic crystals for the upcoming mythic hero, which is exactly what I'm doing now. I'm planning to save 300 mythic crystals so that I can exclusive for the new character when it comes out, as it is likely that the newer mythic hero will be stronger than these existing characters. And as one last point, some of these characters may be subject to change because they might become stronger, and that's because the team is slowly adding these exclusive 4 abilities to Mythic heroes. So as you can see, Brynhild already has one, but characters like Lucifer still do not. So we may see a new exclusive 4 ability on characters like Lucifer or Ulcaster, which make them a lot stronger than they currently are. And if that's the case, just keep a lookout if they have implemented these changes, and ask the community, perhaps in the Infinite Magicraid Discord, if they are something worth getting over the current options. But if not, just as a final summary, you should always be getting Nordek as your first Mythic hero, and for your second choice, it can be either Nita, Narit, or Ben Austin depending on the situation. But if you are unsure what to pick, I recommend just getting Nita, and make sure you get her at exclusive 3. So that's all we have for today. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.